Well, hey there everyone, and welcome back to YouTube Foundry. I'm Richard, and what we're going to do in this video is take a look at YouTube's policies related to copyright and rights management. This is a really important topic because if you don't get this right, you can commit a copyright violation, and if you commit enough of them, you can actually get your channel canceled. The biggest problem you're going to have is going to be with music or with other printed material that you put in your videos. But the music is going to be the big one. That's the one you have to watch out for. Also in your things like your thumbnails, you're going to have to watch for art that you use from somebody else or pictures that are copyrighted from somebody else. You have to be really, really careful with that. The most pictures like the one you see here on the right-hand side of the screen, I actually generated using ChatGPT. So there's absolutely no copyright issues associated with this that I have to worry about. So let's just dive right into the material, find out how to find it on YouTube's channel or YouTube's website, and then we'll also talk about what the policies are and what they mean. Okay, so we've seen this in some of our earlier videos. This is how you get to the policies and the community guidelines for YouTube. You're going to go to Google or support.google.com, and when you do, it's going to bring up this screen. And there at the top line, over third from the left, is going to be the YouTube icon. You click on that, and it's going to take you to the YouTube help page or the YouTube support page. Now, what we want is down near the bottom. If you go down near the bottom, there's an item that says Policy, Safety, and Copyright. This is where all the YouTube community guidelines and policies are going to be explained, and it's also going to talk about, of course, what happens when you get a strike and what can, how strikes can pile up and you can actually end up losing your channel, and that's really scary and you don't want to do that. So let's just go look at this. When you click on this, you're going to get a list of 5 items. YouTube's community guidelines, YouTube's policies, the reporting and enforcement, Privacy and Safety Center, and Copyright and Rights Management. Now, if I click on the very first one of these, YouTube Community Guidelines, it'll have on the left, it'll have all the guidelines. Over to the right, it'll have this same list of 5. Now, if you click on the other 4, it doesn't give you that list, but you can still get to them. So let's just click right to Copyright and Rights Management. So we click on that, and what you see on the screen is the different links you have related to this. Now, I'm going to focus in this video just on a few, but you really should take a look at all of these to see if they apply to you and how they might apply to you. I'm going to talk about what a copyright is. We're going to talk about the things you can do to get copyright strikes or warnings. What is fair use? Now, I'm not going to go into a real legal definition. I'll have a lawyer perhaps talk about that in a later video. But the concept of fair use I'll introduce. We're going to talk about some frequently asked questions and some of the myths around copyright that you need to understand. And we'll talk about what happens when you get a strike, what can lead to a strike related to copyright, and how that happens. And I'll actually show you an example of something that happened to me. So let's just jump right into it. First, to figure out what is a copyright definition. How do we define copyright? So I'm just going to click on this here, and if we scroll down, I typed in copyright definition. We scroll down, and it's going to tell us the definition right here. And it says copyright is the exclusive right given to an originator or an assignee to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary, artistic, or musical material, and to authorize others to do the same. So if you've created something tangible, it has to be something tangible. It can't be an idea, it can't be a name, it can't be a word. It has to be something in tangible format. So like it has to be music that's written down, it has to be art that's on some kind of a medium. It has to be in a structured or a definite medium, right? So, but if you've got that, if you created that, and it's going to be yours, whether you actually have a legal copyright or not, technically you have the copyright if you can prove you created it. Now, when you have that, you also have the right to assign that to others, to allow others to use it. But it's a written contract that you have to release them from any liability. You have to give them permission to use it. And usually you want to restrict how they're going to use it so they can only use it for a specific purpose. And so that's what a copyright is, and that's the issue that arises. So if you've got artwork or photographs or clips from films, you're going to do maybe the cover art from a book or a music or song that you've heard somewhere you really like and you want to put it in your video. If you don't have the right, the permission to use that copyrighted material, you might very well get a copyright strike against you. So let's go back to the what it says about it. So it talks about what is copyright here, and it says in many countries when a person creates an original work that is in a fixed physical medium, Okay, remember that. They automatically own the copyright. They automatically own the copyright to that. As the copyright owner, they have the exclusive right to use the work. Most of the time, only the copyright owner can say whether someone else has permission to use the work. Now, here's another thing that's important. There's two issues here. There's the issue of how YouTube treats copyrights, and then there's the legal issue. You can get in trouble in both categories. So all YouTube is going to do is determine whether or not you appear to have a violation of somebody else's copyright. And if you do, they will take your video down. That's not the end of your problems, because that same person could turn around and sue you in court for using their copyright or for infringement of their copyright. That's where you really have to worry. Okay, so just because YouTube's process is a corporate process, it's not a legal process. There's also the legal process that the copyright owner could go through if they so choose. They usually don't, but if they choose, they could do that. So the types of things that's going to be subject to copyright infringement would be, as I said, artwork, photographs, music that's been recorded or written down, perhaps films, anything like that. So you have to be really, really careful about how you use other people's work in your videos. The best thing to do is make everything in your video original, and you won't have a problem. The video you're going to see in a minute that I'll show you in a couple minutes is a video I took at a horse show, and there was music playing in the background, and I got a copyright warning on that video just because of the music in the background. I didn't even put the music in there. It was playing in the background, and I got a warning, and I'll show that to you. So next thing, I want to know who determines this. Well, YouTube will determine whether or not somebody actually has a copyright. Now, what YouTube says is, look, if you want to make a copyright claim against somebody else, they say you want to say somebody's using your copyrighted material, it's up to you, the copyright owner, to prove you've got the copyright. Just because somebody says they've got a copyright doesn't mean YouTube is going to act. YouTube is going to make sure that those people can prove they have the copyright. Right? So that's a really important thing. Now, even if they do have the copyright, YouTube will can exercise what they call, there's two ways that you can use other people's copyrighted material. One is to get the permission. The other is what we call fair use, and we're going to talk about fair use in a few moments. But YouTube reserves the right to determine that, and if they determine it and you disagree, there is an appeal process that you can go through, and you just have to go through the process that they explain to you. Copyright is not the same as a trademark. A trademark is like a logo or something like that. So if you copied somebody else's logo and used it in your logo, you're going to get in trouble. A lot of times they're not going to get it. If you just have, like, if you're wearing a pair of sneakers in your video and it has the Nike logo, you're probably not going to get in trouble for that. Because that's sort of fair use, right? So let's talk about this fair use thing a little bit. And over here on the right, there is something called fair use on YouTube. So what it says is fair use is a legal doctrine that says use of copyright protected material under certain circumstances is allowed without permission from the copyright holder. So you get it says they get a lot of requests to remove videos that says people are infringing upon their law, the copyright law, but YouTube will determine that there's an exception in place. If you're walking down a sidewalk and you see a cover of a popular magazine, they can't claim copyright infringement because that magazine was in your video if you're walking and if it's displayed in public, right? If you have a display of a store, and their store's logo in the background and you're filming in a parking lot, they can't get upset with you because their store logo appeared in your video. You don't have to get permission for that, okay? So it says in the yellow, courts have decided that copyright holders must consider whether copyright exceptions apply before they submit a copyright removal request. So that burden is on the copyright holder to prove that an exception does not exist. It's not up to you to have to prove that an exception does exist. Now, if they claim an exception doesn't exist, YouTube agrees with them and takes your video down or shuts your video down, makes it private instead of public, you can always appeal that. Okay, there's no reason you can't appeal that, and as I said, they have a right to that. You'll see a lot of videos on YouTube where people are using clips from movies. They may be using music in the background. There's a couple of myths we're going to talk about in a minute. Just because you're doing that and other people do it doesn't mean you can. Okay, I would be very careful about using anybody else's material in your videos. It can get you in some trouble. It says down here in the green, if a copyright holder doesn't provide us with an adequate explanation as to why a video doesn't qualify for a copyright exception, then the video is not removed from YouTube. So that's a really, really important thing to understand, I think. It does mention that copyright rules are different around the world. So you do need to be familiar with all those, and you may get something from another country that says it's a copyright violation when it might not be one here in the United States. So those copyright fair use doctrines will differ from one place to another. It does list down here 4 factors associated with fair use, and so you need to maybe read through those and pay attention to those. Let's go back and talk about how you get strikes. So I'm going to go back here, and we're going to talk about copyright strike basics. Okay, so when you click on copyright strike basics, it says here's what can happen if you're found to be using somebody else's copyright and they claim you don't have the permission. The first thing that I've noticed happens is you get a warning. You don't get a strike right off the bat. You're going to get a warning. A video can only have one warning on it at a time. You'll get a warning and be asked to remedy it. Now, it's interesting. YouTube does have a tool that they will guide you to. It's in the Studio app, and I'll try to show you that if it'll come up when I show you the other video I've got. But it's an app that you can put your video in, and it will try to remove that music from the background of your video. I've had that be very successful in some circumstances, and that's something you might try before you decide to take down a video or delete a video that you might have put up there. Now, if you get 3 strikes, they can shut your channel down. And now after the first strike, what they'll do is they might have you go through what they call a copyright school. It's an online course they'll have you go through. It doesn't take a long time to do it. And you have to sign up. You have to answer some questions at the end to show that you've done it and get a certain score on it. But you can go through what they call copyright school, and that will eliminate the strike. Now, you're still going to have a punishment. The first punishment is 7 days where you get blocked from using your live stuff. The second warning can be 2 weeks, and then they can give you a strike. And if you get 3 strikes, they can shut down your channel, and they tell you that down there as well. Now, let's go next and look at how to get info about your strike. So it says here, it tells you you can go to YouTube Studio. From the left menu, click Content, click the filter bar up at the top, go to Copyright in the Restrictions column, hover over Copyright, see the details. Okay, let's go look at an example of how that happened to me. So I'm going to go to my Cowboy Survival channel, and I'm going to show you the issue that I had. So I'm at the Cowboy Survival channel now. Now, I didn't go through Studio. I can. So this is when I went to Manage Videos, and I go to, now if you wanted to, you could go to Studio, and you can do like they say, go to Studio, then you can click on Content, and when you click on Content, it's going to take you right back to that Manage Video screen. So there's a couple ways you can get to it. Now, we're talking about this, right above the first video, there's a little triangular, a little upside-down pyramid of lines. That is your filter button. You click on that, and it's going to bring up, so I'm going to click on Copyright, and it's going to bring up one video that I had that has a copyright problem. Now, if I hover over that, it says copyright protected content found. You can share ad revenue with the copyright owners by turning on monetization. I hit details, and it's going to tell me the copyright claim on your video. The copyright claims on your video don't affect your channel. This is not a copyright strike. So I didn't get a strike on this. I just got a warning here. Okay. Now, what if I wanted to try to take action? So if I go to take action, it has a couple things, and one of the things is erase song. Okay, so I could do a couple things. I could dispute it. I could trim out the segment. Now, if the video is not integral to your the music is not integral to your video, I don't think I would dispute it. I'd try to get rid of it. You can trim out that segment if it's just in one segment. But remember, you can trim stuff out of a video that's uploaded, but you can't add stuff to the video that's been uploaded. You can replace the song, so sometimes you can replace that. That's not really easy. You can do this erase song. This erase song, this is the tool that I've used before. You click on this and you say continue, and it's going to take you to this. And what it's going to do, it's going to mute all sound in the channel segments where it found the music. And it's pretty effective. I've had it do with several videos, and I was able to remove all the offending music completely. So it's a pretty cool, smart tool. It's a use of artificial intelligence within YouTube, but it's a pretty cool tool, and I would suggest you try to use it if you ever get a strike. Now, we'll cover in a later video how do you add music that's not going to get copyright problems on it? And YouTube has provided some music for you, and I'll show you how to access and use that music in a later video. Okay, so let's go back to our main copyright screen. And I want to go back and click on what is copyright again right here. Down at the bottom of that has some myths about copyrights that we want to go through really quick before we end the video. So there's several. If you scroll down, there's 7 myths that they talk about. They're sort of part of the frequently asked questions stuff. The first myth is that giving credit to the copyright owner means you can use their content. That's not the case. Just because you say, oh, this is a song by Bob Smith, and I really want to give him credit for this, so I'm going to use the song. That does not give you the right to use the song, okay? So just crediting somebody or referencing it doesn't mean you've got the right to use that material. Second, claiming non-profit means you can use any content. No. In fact, the video I showed you earlier actually is not a public video. It's a private video. And but yet YouTube still identified a copyright issue with that particular video. Well, other creators do it, so can I. Well, what you don't know is, first of all, you don't know what kind of permissions the other creators have. Second, you don't know what kind of fair use doctrine has been applied for those videos that allows them to do what they're doing. So don't just presume because you saw somebody else use a music clip, you're allowed to use the same music clip. That is a bad assumption and can get you in trouble. You can use content that you purchased on iTunes, a CD or DVD. No. Just because you buy it for your personal use does not mean that you can then turn around and use it for your videos and use it to publish new videos and use it as part of new content. That's their that's their music or video for your enjoyment. It is not them giving you the right to use it. In fact, if you watch most of these videos, there is a disclaimer at the front end that makes sure and tells you you do not have the right to reproduce that in any way, shape, or form. You can imagine how the NFL sports or somebody would get upset if you bought one of their highlights videos and then you use those videos in your video. That's not allowed. In fact, they have copyright disclaimers to the front of those that say you can't do that. Myth 5, content you recorded yourself from a TV, a movie theater, or radio is okay. No, it's not. That's no different than buying it. It is still their content. It was put out there for your enjoyment. It was put out there for your listening, your viewing. It was not put out there for you to copy and then to use in your own income-generating activities. Saying no copyright infringement was intended, well, that may be the truth, but it doesn't excuse you from being guilty of a copyright infringement. And finally, it's fine to have just a few seconds of copyrighted material. That may be the biggest myth out there. Well, if you have less than 30 seconds from a clip from a movie, you can do it. That's absolutely not true. It can be 1 second. It can be a half a second. Whatever it is, if it is a critical piece and you've done something to alter their ability to use their original work for profit or some other thing that doesn't qualify for fair use, you can be in trouble. Now, sometimes this might qualify for fair use, but other times it might not. So my advice is just avoid using other people's content whenever possible, and do not fall into this trap of thinking just because I've only used 30 seconds, I'm okay, because that's absolutely not going to be the case. Now, hopefully this was very helpful to you. Hopefully you learned something about copyrights on YouTube. Hopefully you are now aware enough that you will go look for more information. You'll be very, very careful not to put copyrighted material in your videos. And if you do accidentally, like that one video that had some background music in it, you'll know how to dispute it and how to claim that it's a fair use of the music. And if that's the case, then you're going to be okay. And like I said, YouTube has a process that you can go through to dispute all this. So hopefully this is helpful. We'll see you again real soon right here on YouTube Foundry.